YouTube, what's good with it, man? It's your boy Neo Cannabis, and I'm back with another video. So in this video, we're going to be comparing and contrasting breaking down peas or busting down peas versus wholesaling peas. What are the benefits? What are the negatives? My job isn't to tell you which is better because it all depends on your situation and where you're at in this point in your life. But it's just to educate you guys and give you guys the info so that you can make better decisions on how you want to progress in life. So if you're new to this channel, my name is Neo Cannabis. In 2018, I started a licensed cannabis delivery service based in Oakland, California. And within 2 years, I scaled it up to a 7-figure operation. Now I teach current and prospective cannabis entrepreneurs how to break into the industry, how to start and scale their own cannabis businesses. So if this sounds like something that you would be interested in, please like, share, comment, subscribe. You're not going to want to miss out. Also, for anything within this cannabis industry, I am your source, whether that's vendors, consultations, collabs, free resources, access to people within my network from the industry. You can contact me at neocannabis1@gmail.com and I will get you right. So without further ado, let's hop into this video. So wholesaling the pea versus busting down the pea. We're going to break down the two. So let's start with wholesaling. I consider anything over a Q piece, so 4 ounces. If you're selling anything over that amount, that is considered wholesaling. The most common form of wholesaling is, of course, peas. Some of the negatives with wholesaling is, and especially in this day and time, in this climate within the cannabis industry, it's all about volume, because it's not like back in the day, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where you can buy a pea for $2,000 and you can sell it for $4,000. It just doesn't work like that. Your margins are going to be extremely smaller nowadays. You may buy a pea for $1,000. So, now you can get good light dep, a decent indoor for that amount. You may only be able to flip it for 200. So imagine if you're only buying 2 or 3 peas at a time and your whole goal is to wholesale it. You may make a little bit more margin if you're busting out QPs and halves, but most people, when they wholesale, they're not even trying to deal with that. They're trying to do the least amount of work to make the most amount of money. That's most people's goal when they wholesale. So if I can find somebody who wants to buy 3 peas and I have 3 peas, they're going to just get it off and probably make only $600 profit. They're going to buy those peas for $3,000, 3 peas, $1,000 a piece. They may tack on 200 each per piece. So they sell it to whoever that person is for $1,200 each. They made themselves $600. That's cool and all, but it's just like your profit margin is so small. It's going to be hard to reinvest that back into your operation and continue to scale it, because if you're only making $600 profit and you had to take all of this risk to get the peas here, find buyers, that may not be worth it for you. So it all depends on your situation. And then with wholesaling, if you want to make big money, you need to have big money. You need to have the funds in order to go get those. And you also need to have the plug, the growers who can, if you have $100,000 to spend on peas, you got to find a grower that can fill that order and get it to you at the right price and figure out all the logistics as far as transportation, how to get it to you. If you're in Cali, if you're in Oregon, if you're in Washington, you have to figure out those logistics on how you're going to move that 100 P's to, say, if you live in Florida, say if you live in New York, say if you live in Atlanta. You got to figure all that logistics out yourself. And if you're not experiencing that, it's a lot of risk. You could lose 100,000 just from not vacuum sealing the bags correctly. And I made a video on that. So that's really the pros and cons of wholesaling. It's more efficient, definitely. However, to make money in this day and time, when you wholesale, you have to do volume. And the only way to do volume, you need the funds and you need the source. You need to know the grower. You need to know the plugs to get it to you at that right amount for you to make a decent margin, at least $200, $300. If you're not doing that, wholesaling may not be for you. in my opinion. And of course, you're going to have the people, oh, if you go in the country, you're going to make double the amount. Well, anytime you go to the country, then now that's less people and that's less buyers. If you're in a bigger city, there's going to be more buyers. So now it's going to be naturally more competition. So it's always a double-edged sword to anything. Yeah, if you want to try to be the big dog in your city and sell all these peas, people are most likely going to know you. So that brings a whole bunch of risks. The police, the jack boys, the double crossers. When you're in these small cities, that's what comes with that. When you're in the bigger cities, now you have more competition. Yeah, you may be able to fly under the radar a little bit more, but still, anytime you're moving 10, 20, 30, 40 units a week, you're going to draw a lot of attention to yourself. And the money that you're making may not even make sense. Imagine you moving 40 P's a month and you're only making $200 off each P. That's only $8,000. Is that really worth it? All the risk? And to get those 40 P's there, you had to put up 40,000 to make 8,000 in a month. I mean, there's jobs that pay 8,000 in a month or 8,000 every 2 months, and you don't have to risk anything but your time. You don't have to risk $40,000. So it all depends. I'm not the person to tell you if this is the right situation for you or if it's not, but it's all about figuring out your lane and mastering your lane, because a lot of people, they want to flip flop. They want to do both. They want to be a bus downer. They want to be a wholesaler. But I always tell people, you have to be an expert in whatever you're doing. Anytime you're trying to do multiple things at once, you're going to spread yourself too thin, and there's going to be a lot of exposure in regards to all of the risk because you're not tightening up the cracks. That's when the issues arise, when you're not focused on the small, minute details. And the only way you can be focused on all these small, minute details, we're talking about sourcing, we're talking about packaging, we're talking about obtaining customers, logistics. The only way to really master this is you have to figure out your lane. So that would be some of the pros and cons of wholesaling. Now let's transition to bus downing. So bus downing, according to my definition, bus downing is anything that is an ounce or less. So if you're doing ounces, you're doing half ounces, quarters, eighths. There's some people that do grams still, pre-rolls. That would be bus downing because you're selling to the retail customer. Wholesaling, you're selling to somebody who is further going to break it down and sell it to a retail customer. The average person is not buying a QP at a time or a P at a time. Yes, there are situations and people that do smoke out the P bag, but that is not the average person. So that's why I don't consider somebody selling, oh, I am breaking down if I'm selling QPs. That's still wholesale. That's a wholesale amount. When I owned a cannabis delivery service, we would most of the time buy QPs and we would have different strains and different flavors. We wouldn't just buy pounds of one strain, and off that QP, we would further break it down and we would sell it to our customers, our retail customers. So again, that would be considered bus downing. So some of the pros and cons with bus downing, a pro with bus downing is that you're going to make more profit because anytime you sell to a retail customer, you're usually going to double whatever your cost is. So if my cost is $100 for the ounce, usually most people are going to sell it for $200. Now you have a way larger profit margin when compared to wholesaling, where I'm buying $1,000 P's and I'm only selling it for $1,200. And your investment is a lot smaller. When you're bust down, you may only need to buy 2-3 pounds. You don't need to buy 40 pounds to make $8,000. You can bust down 3 pounds and make $8,000 profit easily without trying to undercut prices, anything like that. So bust downing is always going to be way more profit margin. It's just all about the image. A lot of people want the image of, oh, I move peas. I'm the pound man. I'm the greatest pound flipper of the decade. That's why most people want to sell peas. It's the image, and most people are lazy. They don't want to have to figure out how are they going to get customers, how are they going to remarket to customers, how are they going to get people to come back into the door. When you're dealing with the retail customer, it takes a certain type of businessman. That's why it really depends. A lot of people don't like dealing with retail customers. When you deal with businesses, or you're dealing with other trappers, which I would consider a business, it's more direct. It's usually more professional. There's not too much price haggling, things like that. You eliminate all of those things. It's more seamless. A lot of times with certain customers, people have a lot of different preferences. They want more variety. There's a lot of nuances that come into it when you're dealing with a retail customer. So that would definitely be a negative, but the profit in most times outweighs that, because you're usually doubling up. You're making 100% profit. Your cost for an ounce is $100 and you can flip it and make 200. However, when bust downing, there's a lot more legwork. It's less efficient. It's a lot more transactions to break down the P. You may be selling ace. There's 128 ace in a P. And for all those mathematicians, if I sell 128, you're not going to sell exactly 128 ace. There's something called shake. If you're a smoker, most people smoke their own product. Things aren't perfect in business, so nothing's ever going to be perfect. But just imagine if you had to sell 128 ace, that's 128 transactions. That's 128 people that could possibly be a snitch. That's 128 people that could say, hey, I want a refund. So it's a lot more that goes into it. It's a lot more legwork. It's less efficient. It's usually going to take longer unless you just got a crazy customer base and you have crazy good customer service and you found your niche. It's going to take longer to get off your product than somebody who's wholesaling, because I could wholesale, I can get 5 P's and those can be gone by tomorrow. Most of the times, if you get 5 P's to bust down, it's going to take you a month, 2 months. It just all depends. The average person is not going to be able to bust down 5 P's in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It's going to take a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months. All depends on your customer base, you know, how frequently they're coming back and purchasing again. These are all different factors that play into it. So that's a little bit about both. Again, I'm just educating you guys on the differences between the two. And I would suggest that you pick a lane. You figure out, based on my circumstances and my situation, me being a bust downer, me busting down P's is more beneficial than me wholesaling P's. If you're a big well, you got a lot of money, then wholesaling might be a better option for you. But also with wholesaling, once you get to a point where you have so much volume, then you have to start fronting people. That's a whole nother thing that I'm not even going to dive in, but you're going to have to front people, packs, and hope that they pay you back for them in 30 days, 60 days, whatever you agree to. You know what I mean? So then now your money is tied up in the hands of somebody else. So you're hoping that they can offload their inventory to pay you back because you just have so much inventory. So that's where a lot of these factors and nuances that people don't think about come into play when you break down the two, bust downing and wholesaling. So that's all my job is, to educate you. One is not better than the other. It all depends on your situation and where you're at in life, what your finances are, what type of life you want to live. If you're a bust downer, man, you got to be at the trap all day unless you have workers that are busting down on behalf of you. Most bust downers are a one-man army. They're a one-man business. They're a one-man operation. So if you're not working, if you're traveling, that's business that you're going to lose. So again, it just all depends on who you are as a person and what you're trying to do. But my only suggestion is that you should figure out which one you want to do. I wouldn't dibble and dabble in both because they're two completely different ways that contrast each other and can cause a lot of issues down the line if you're trying to do both. If this video brought you any type of value, please like, share, comment, subscribe if you're new. And until next time, peace. I'm out.